flustered as well. There was far too much fluttering going on for his liking. "But I find I am most dizzy," she whispered dramatically. He scowled, then immediately smoothed his expression, fighting a surprising dose of irritation. He did not usually suffer the vapours, pretend or otherwise. "I will help you out of the ditch, and that is far enough." "But could you not carry me to the castle?" she insisted, her voice still holding that breathy note that completely mystified him. And now, amidst the dells he loved so well, sitting in several inches of good Yorkshire rainwater, he was cold. His breeches were wet, his coat was drenched, and to add insult to injury, he was covered in mud, as was she. They were both a right mess. He supposed he should offer further assistance, but that didn't mean he had to be the one to carry it out. A good north wind whipped down the dale, rustling his guest's exceptionally clean riding clothes and exacerbating Edward's chill. "I will ask my man to take you back to the house." He gritted his teeth, willing himself not to say anything he might regret or that might support his reputation for being a cold sod. It had taken a great deal of training over the years not to blurt out the thoughts in his head as they came to him. Presently she was putting all that training to the test. "I'm certain he will find your mother to take care of you." "Oh, but your Grace, you are my hero, and you must allow me to thank you properly." The young lady leaned forward and had the rather shocking temerity to touch his arm. "Come with me." Edward eyed that hand upon his forearm. He did not like to be touched by strangers without his wish or approval, even lightly. He arched a brow. Then, before he could stop himself, he said matter-of-factly, "You look like a drowned rat." A squeak of dismay exited her Cupid's bow lips. She was clearly not used to being told the obvious truth. He hoped someone would explain to her that one did not throw themselves into ditches so dukes would go after them. He had helped, of course, because he really wasn't the cold sod everyone thought him to be. But such a charade was not the way to matrimony, at least not with him. Edward helped her to stand, her riding habit all but pouring water down its heavy skirts. Delicately he guided her towards his footman, Hobbs. "Take the young lady back to the house. Make certain she is dried out and that her family is found." She let out several sounds of protest, but Edward ignored them all, stepping away to grab his stallion's reins that he'd had to abandon to rescue her. Rescue indeed. Such machinations were unfortunately common. It was the life of a duke. People would stuff handkerchiefs down his coat, fall into ditches, and corner him in rooms. Who knew what they'd think up next? As he stepped forward, he felt an alarming draught and winced. Bloody hell! His breeches were torn in a most indiscreet place. Edward held the long tails of his riding coat about his legs, or else half the county would see his nether regions. Escape. He needed to escape. Quickly, he swung back up onto his stallion and charged off in the direction of the stables, leaving the riding party without a word. He really had no desire to continue on in this particular vein, regardless, not after such a moment. And soon everyone would be gathering for the ball. He would need to clean and change. Relieved to be alone, Edward galloped back to the stable block where he knew he'd find a spare set of clothes, though none would fit him. He was far larger than all the stable lads, but this would have to do until he could get upstairs and properly change. But he also wanted dry breeches so he could avoid everyone, servants included, and find a moment's solitude in his private library. He needed his special chair. It would help calm the tension throughout his body, and he required that calm if he was to face the evening ahead. Edward left his stallion with a groomsman, headed for the tack room, and grabbed a pair of dubious breeches. He yanked off his drenched ones and quickly pulled the coarse wool into place. They were ill-fitting and dried mud showed in a few spots, but they would suffice. As he stared down at the state of his